Welcome. Tonight, here at the Center of the Universe, we're going to learn about another gem, another service offered that so many people don't know about, yet can help so many of our people, our family members. So what I want to do is start with an introduction.
Yeah, hi Al, my name is David Placido. I'm the Director of Shared Living at HMEA, and I appreciate being here.
My name is Julie White-Ronsky, and I'm a shared living provider.
I'm happy too.
What's your name?
My name's June Hawaii.
Wonderful.
Michael Diggs, HMEA Shared Living Recruiter.
So tell me, what is a shared living and what is an HMEA?
Sure, Al, thank you. HMEA is a leading agency providing services to adults and children with intellectual disabilities. And shared living is a residential program that we offer. And the philosophy for shared living is simple. We think people do best when they have the opportunity to live in homes that are designed with their unique interests and supports in mind. Furthermore, we believe that all people should have the opportunity to develop strong, supportive, and lasting relationships with the people who provide their support on a daily basis. So that's why tonight we have June with Julie and Michael to talk a little bit more about our program.
Now, if I have somebody at home that needs a little bit of help, who do I turn to? Do I call you or?
Sure, HMEA, actually another program that we have is adult family care, but for shared living specifically, what we do is we try to find homes for people with intellectual disabilities who are looking for something different than a traditional group home. So June, for instance, had lived home most of her life. As she got older, she needed a higher level of support, and she was interested in living with Julie. So we recruited Julie to share her home with June.
So what drove you to open up your home?
Well, I worked with people that were disabled for 28 years. I was a social worker. And then 7 years ago, I had somebody else living with us for 7 years, and she needed more help, and we weren't able to give her. And then I met June and thought I would open our home again. And then I met June, and she came over to the house, and she slept over, and we got to know each other, and we went out to dinner, and then we went shopping, and then she liked the house, and she liked my husband, so we said, well, let's try it. And she moved in last October 1st.
How wonderful. Because there's always a question, you know, Milford, we've taken pride in some of the special needs programs we have for the kids. Jen Walsh has been a saint with what she puts together. Now my ungrateful offspring #1 is doing the Best Buddies program.
Oh, nice.
You know, so since she was a kid, she's gotten the family involved with Special Olympics, special needs. But you always wonder, where do the kids go when they become adults and they need a little help? What options? One option is to go to you.
Yeah, so HMEA is a provider agency. We actually contract with the Department of Developmental Disabilities, which actually has an office here in Milford. So if someone was considered to be eligible for their services and was looking for residential services, shared living specifically, they would be referred to us. We would get to know them, and we would find a home that meets their needs.
Now, how do you decide, Michael?
It's a very sensitive pairing. You know, we take our time because we want to make sure, you know, first and foremost that the individual, you know, finds the right placement. We also want to make sure that the provider that is seeking to become a provider can provide the care needs for the person. So we really take our time and try to do a perfect match as close as possible.
Now, what options are open? I mean, if I'm becoming an adult, I'm no longer, and as I say, my daughter Alexis has just got a gift with the special needs kids. You know, she got me involved in coaching Special Olympics, and I loved it. I mean, I'd love to say I did it just for the kids, but I think I got more out of it than they could have. They're just such wonderful families. But as they get older, you know, and they become adults, what options are open to them?
Well, with shared living, the age starts off from the ages of 22 and above. You know, myself coming from the residential background, you know, and having the experience of being a manager from a residential program to now being the recruiter for shared living, myself, I feel as though a person with a disability, they receive more, one-on-one care versus being in a residential program. I like, shared living because it puts together a family atmosphere for a person who may not even have, family involvement in their lives.
But now, it's realistically, when you say residential, how do you describe residential?
And I think that's a term we use in the field to describe the supports that someone receives in their homes. And traditionally, for adults with intellectual disabilities, that may have meant living in a group home with 3 or 4 other people with disabilities and shift staffing coming in throughout the evening, weekends and stuff. So I think when people think about residential services for this population, you think of a group home.
You're not putting,
Previously, it may have been an institution.
that's what I'm saying. 'Cause,
So
you know,
shared living is an alternative to a group home, and really, it's the most person-centered, natural way to support people in their community.
because when I think of an institution, and they're going to do the best they can, but it doesn't seem real personal.
Correct. So it's not person-centered, and it's typically, I don't know that people would choose to live in an institution when they would have the opportunity to live in a home that's designed with their needs in mind.
So then, if I'm not going to go to an institution, the next option is a group home, where a number of us can be and helpers come in, or?
Correct. Typically, shift staffing would come in throughout the week, evenings and weekends.
But now, when you say shift staffing, sounds very impressive. But what does it really mean?
So direct support staff, I think people who work, and again, they would be in the home when the individual requires support. So during the week, it's typically 3 to 11, and on weekends it might be, and overnight. So whenever someone's home requiring support, that's when staff would be available.
So support, shopping,
Yeah, all of those personal needs.
laundry,
Right.
just the things that we take for granted.
Correct.
So I could go to a group home.
But why would you want to if you had shared living as an option?
Well, see, now I'm saying, I like group home better than the idea of an institution.
Right.
And then you say, wait a minute, shared living. Now, you can match me up with a family, and I can feel like I'm living in a family home?
Correct.
Okay, that seems to now be my number one choice. Am I missing something, or?
No, I think that's the simplest way to think about it. And it doesn't have to be a family. One thing I want to mention is that for Julie, it's Julie, her husband Bill, and June, and that makes a great household. Some providers, it may be a single provider who serves as a roommate. It may be a husband and wife and children. Really, this will be tailored based on the needs of the individual and what they're looking for. I know when I met June, one of the criteria would be a house that was quiet and would offer her an ability to relax and yet get provided the support that she requires.
But I guess when I think of, you described Julie and husband Bill, there's a family.
Correct.
If I could live there versus a room in an institution, I don't know why there would be a question in my mind.
Well, that's why we're here today. We don't know either. We're trying to figure that out. And we
So-
want to find more people to do shared living.
HMEA. What does that mean?
Well, it stands for Horace Mann Educational Associates. We're a private nonprofit agency. Our administrative office is in Franklin. We've been providing services for more than 50 years. Traditionally, we also have a number of group homes throughout Massachusetts, but shared living is a service we offer currently to 40 adults living throughout Massachusetts. And we would like to do more shared living, specifically in the Milford, South Valley area. It's an area where we're receiving referrals, yet we don't have a lot of qualified providers. And I think it's because people don't really know it's an option.
Well, it's the first I've ever heard of the fact that if I had a choice,
Yep.
it's like, okay, do I want to put my finger in a light socket? No. I like the alternative of a pleasant place. Not that the institutions aren't as pleasant as they can make them,
Right.
but kind of feels like you're living in a hotel.
Correct.
That's true.
Getting home and having Julie and husband Bill there, okay, you have dinner at the dinner table, just seems like all the trappings of a normal life.
It does.
So now, biggest issue you have is people don't know you exist.
I think that's a challenge so within the human service field, I think more people are learning about shared living, But in the general public, yes. I've been working in human services for 30 years. I have lots of friends. I try to explain what we do. You mentioned Jen Walsh. At one time I knew Jen, and we were involved in different types of programming together. But shared living is a service that I don't think a lot of people yet understand or really know is out there and available to them.
So if I decide I want to help, and like I say, I kind of equate it to when Jen Walsh cornered me to do Special Olympics coaching, because I really thought I was there to help the kids. I found out later the kids were there to help me, because the love and just the interaction was so powerful. I've never met a group of kids or families that were so positive. They were so appreciative. So, for me to say I did a lot for them, yeah, that paled in what, it's the tip of the iceberg compared to how they made us feel as a family. But if I say, okay, I think maybe I could do this. And I remember when Jen called me to be a coach, I was like, I was coaching for 14 years, typical kids. Well, I don't know if I can coach Special Olympics kids because I don't know what it means. Same thing. I would imagine if somebody said, okay, maybe I'd like to explore this, how do I start?
The first process, they would contact myself at the main office. They can contact me on the web through email, which is mdiggs@hmea.org, or they can call me at my line at 508-298-1178. And then, I would conduct a phone screening, ask them a couple questions about personal experience of working with people with developmental disabilities. I would ask them in regards to the towns of where they reside. I would ask them as well, the type of person that they're looking to care for, the gender of the person, male or female. So there's a screening that I would do, and then after I conduct a phone screening with that person, I would coordinate a home visit to their home, and then I would go through the process of conducting a home study where you ask a couple more personal questions. I would meet with the family members that resides in the home. I would also conduct an environmental review of the home to make sure that the home is safe and has all the proper lights and fire extinguishers and smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors and all as well. The person also would have to qualify and pass a query. And then after they conduct the process of the paperwork, I would then coordinate with my supervisor, David, and then we would start trying to figure out the matching process of what person matches the referral to what we have, for availability.
The kind of family that would be optimum for you, is there one?
It depends on the referral, because it all starts with the care needs of the person. Everyone has a different type of care as far as levels. Some people require more 24 hours, 7 days a week support. Some people that we have received referrals for, and some people that are currently placed in our share living program, the person can receive alone time as well. So everybody, it's different criteria to different matching with providers as well.
If somebody wants to do it, and now they get to the brass tacks of can I afford it, does the state and does DDS, the Development Services Department, help out the family?
They do. Again, depending on the level of care needs for the person that will require the support, a person's the provider will receive a tax-free stipend based off of the level of care that's needed, and again, it varies based off of the care needs of the person.
You're not going to do this to make money.
I will hope that you're not coming in to make it
Right.
for money. I always, when I meet with providers, that's if I meet someone and the first question comes out about how much will I get paid, it kind of turns me away from
I'd get a little worried.
Yes, exactly. But it takes a special person to do what we do, and like you said itself, you learn so much. You grow as a person, and it helps your family, helps your kids, live and view things differently, I think, than just the average person.
Well, and again, I would hope, there's people out there that, Milford's very diverse, the area, and they may be making it, but a lot of our seniors are living on $1,500, $1,600 a month.
Yeah.
And they may be worried that although they'd like to help, can they afford to help? So it's nice to know, I don't think people would want to make money on it, but at least kind of keep them whole.
Yeah, Al, it's a conversation that's sometimes difficult to have, but it should be pointed out that you are providing a service, right? So you're opening your home, you're providing daily support and supervision, you're scheduling and attending medical appointments, you're perhaps helping people with medication. You're really providing that person with a quality of life that's suited to the individual. And for that, you will receive a stipend in support from HMEA.
But that's like to cover food and,
Yeah, food and expenses, but also for your time. Your time is important, right? However, you can't be looked at as like a job, right?
Right.
But it's more of a, I would describe it as a way of life. And I think Julie could speak to that. You've worked in the field, yet you've also become a provider. How has it changed your life doing shared living?
Well, having somebody live with you, you change their life, but they change your life too. The other woman that lived with us for 7 years, we're like an extended family. That's what I like to think about myself as a provider. June is an extended family. Her family is an extended family. Her family comes over whenever they want. They pick June up whenever they want. June talks to them often. But I've been able to help June to cook. She wanted to cook, so now, and she made the cranberry
she made me the
orange.
bread.
That's right.
Yeah, we
That's right.
both did it.
Yep, but you did most of it, right?
Yep.
I show her what to do.
I'm looking forward to getting home tonight and having cranberry bread.
Only one thing I'm left-handed.
Oh, she's left-handed, so that's a challenge for me because I'm right-handed. So, but we manage, right?
Yeah, we
So
did.
she's learning a few things. She's learning how to do the microwave and things like that. And so but she's a joy to have in our house.
I love it here too. It's quiet.
Not all the time when
No.
our grandchildren come over, right?
Yep.
So we have 9 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. So when they come over, I say to
9 grandchildren? Okay, I'm
3
envious.
great. 3
I have 1.
Oh,
And we've adopted the saying carpe baby, seize the baby.
Right.
Any chance we get, my baby. 9. Oh my
9.
God, that's incredible.
9 and 3 great-grandchildren. So when they come over, I tell June, well, if you'd like to, you can stay out here with us if you'd like to. But if you want to go in your room, if it gets too noisy. But she doesn't. She stays out. I have an autistic grandson, and he gets a little rambunctious. And when he gets rambunctious, June decides to go in her room and watch TV, right, June?
I've been doing this every night too. My own TV.
Oh, yeah, she has her.
Cool. Now, help me understand. I read that the DDS, the Department of Developmental Services, God, I love these names, that they're pushing for shared living first.
Yeah,
Why?
I think first of all, it's because it's a great service. It has changed June's life and it's made an impact on Julie's life, but also because it's person-centered. I think it's what people want. People want to live in homes that are designed with their interests and needs in mind. And it also allows us to be flexible in how services are provided. So when DDS talks about it as a first option, I think it's in an effort to promote shared living and let people know it's available. So if I'm coming to the Department for Services, I should be learning about shared living as an option and not just a traditional group residence. So there's a commitment to provide people with this opportunity.
And now, it sounds like there's no cookie cutter, because if you're matching individuals with special needs to homes, I don't think you can have, okay, the perfect home is this, this, and this.
Well, there's really no such thing of a perfect home, but we tried as close as possible to make sure that all of the likes, dislikes, comes from the matching with the provider and with the individual. Example where we could have a referral where, as Julie was saying, the person may not like a lot of loud noise. So we would try to find a home that's quiet. It could be a home to where the provider has pets, and the individual may not be a big fan or likes animals. So we try to match as close as possible, all the likes of the person and with the individual with the provider.
So now, if I want to find you, I Google shared living,
If you Google shared living, you're going to learn about a lot of agencies that do shared living. But if you want to learn about HMEA, so you want to go to hmea.org/shared living. You're going to learn a little bit more about our program. You'll be able to apply online through Michael. And I just want to pitch out what Michael says. I think really our purpose is almost like if we're Match.com. We're trying to find that perfect place for someone to live. And there is no single profile for a provider, just as there's no single profile for an individual living in our program. And people get the opportunity to spend time together, to visit and make informed decisions about living together. We've been doing shared living for almost 20 years, so as we come and talk about it today.
Really?
Yes. And we've
In this
had,
area for 2 decades?
yes, and we have relationships that have lasted 18 years. I think nearly 50% of our providers have been doing it for more than 10 years, and a significant number for more than 5 years. So we spend a lot of energy creating the matches and making sure that those relationships are sustainable. And the way we do that is to provide support to Julie as a caregiver, but also making certain that June is getting everything she needs and wants from this relationship as well. HMEA is, I'd like to say, we're kind of behind the scenes. If it's going really well, we will visit once monthly. We will make sure that June has everything she needs, but really it's June and Julie who are functioning in taking care of each other, and then we're there when people need support.
How do I say this? When you first got in, you had expectations. What kind of expectations did you have, and what came out of it?
Well, I started HMEA 28 years ago, working in individual support, so I had always worked with people with disabilities. But I knew what I wanted. We didn't want a gentleman to live with us. That wouldn't have fit. And I wanted to have, I wanted to have somebody that would fit with my family. A lot of times on a Sunday, there'd be 13 of us for Sunday dinner. So they had to fit in my family. So with June, I said, this is what can happen. So if you're okay with this, then we'll go out to dinner. And we did. We went out to dinner. And then, so my expectations were, this is what I expect of you, but this is what you expect of me. So it's like a mutual agreement. You know, she knows what she expects of me, and I know what I expect of her.
Did you realize what you wanted out of the program?
I did realize that. I did. But
So-
you have to get to know somebody. You can't just, you know, if somebody wants to just do shared living and say, okay, well, I want to do it, and this is the person I want to have live with me, it doesn't work like that. You have to make sure that that person's going to fit in your family. You know, not everybody wants to have 9 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren around. I mean, I do. It's heaven.
It sounds like heaven to me.
It's heaven for me.
I mean, we
too.
get into the issue where my daughter, which I can never understand how, she's full-time special needs teacher, does the Best Buddies program, coaches Special Olympics, has a 2-year-old, and now is going for a PhD.
She should be doing shared living. It sounds like she's got a lot of spare time on her hands.
But it's always funny because she brings my grandson Chase over. And more than once, I mean, I remember her calling me at 3 o'clock. Dad? Yes. Do you know where my son is? And I'm like, your son? My grandson is with me at Holy Cross watching a basketball game. I don't know what you mean by this your son thing. You know, so yes, it sounds like heaven to me.
Yes.
Because I get one and, like I say, carpe baby, seize the baby.
It is. Well, and grandparents, once they become a grandparent, it's like they have the pictures and they have the.
Oh, God, yes.
That's right.
Now, from a practical point of view, when Jen first asked me to coach Special Olympics, I was scared to death. Like, do I know what to do? You know, will I let these kids down? It wasn't mean-spirited, I didn't mean to be, but I was scared to death. You tell me that you're bringing in a special needs person to my home. How do I ask you politely? What's expected of me, and how do I know I'm going to work? Because I'd hate to bring somebody in and then say, nope, see you, bye.
Yeah. Well, what happens is if we feel as though a provider meets the qualifications to be the caregiver for the individual, myself and my co-workers, we have a team that we will all get together and we will have a meeting and talk about and have questions to be given to the provider. And then I would then meet with the provider, ask those questions that was asked from the team. And if we felt as though that there's a possibility that it still is a good fit, you know, we would then have the provider and the individual do some type of like getting to know type of activities, you know, maybe go out to dinner, go out to lunch. We don't have the invitation offered to the individual until we have a complete, I guess.
So there's a courtship process.
There is.
Where you make
right.
sure that,
That's right.
not that I'm bad or you're not right, or just
That you
do we
mesh.
meld together?
Yes,
Because
because
I could see you bring 12 kids in the house, I'm in heaven. Yeah, that's it, this is great. But some people may not
Right.
do well with 9 grandkids and 3 great-grandkids.
That's
exactly.
Right, if I could just interject, I think what you're talking about, Al, is just training and support. So if you have the right motivation, the way I look at it, most people come to us seeking out shared living and they've had some human service experience. I think more lately it's about what are your personal attributes? How do you approach things such as when challenges are presented to you? If you are interested and motivated and have the right the right motivation in mind, we can provide training and support to help you succeed. Because when you talk about previously been a coach but never coached people with developmental disabilities, you knew how to coach, right? And that was most important. The other stuff we can help you with.
And it was amazing, because like I say, all of a sudden, all my fears went away.
It's
When,
all
you know,
about just
when-
experience, right?
When the kids come running up and, you know, you just see these wonderful smiles and you get big hugs, all of a sudden I said, this is no different than typical kids. I can do this,
That's right.
you know, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience overall. But I can see people being nervous, not from a negative, but just,
No, it's,
you know, like I was. Will I screw up? Will I let these people down? There's families that are now counting on me.
well, I think as much as training and support as we provide, what we have found is the first 30, 60, 90 days, the first 6 months really is where all the adjustments happen. So we spend extra time providing support to the caregiver and to the individual. And once you get through that initial adjustment, it really just becomes a way of life. It really becomes just about having another person in your home and figuring out how they fit into the mix and giving them the support that they need every day.
And you know, now that you say that, I remember when we inherited some daughters. I got the phone call. Can you put a girl up for a weekend, a week, a month, 2 years? Because they were playing soccer in town. Yeah, the first few months. I mean, I had 12-year-olds and 7-year-olds, and all of a sudden I've got this young lady in my house. It's totally different.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden a couple months go by and she's just another daughter. Be quiet and get over here.
Yeah.
You know, it just melded in, became family. So as we think through it, what message would you like to leave the community with?
I would just like to leave people with the message, if you are interested, if you want to open your home and make a difference, I think you should consider shared living. Because I think anybody with the right training and support can do it successfully. Not only will it have an impact on your life, but it'll make a difference in someone else's life as well.
And realistically, if you don't know, then Google HMEA.
HMEA.org/shared living. You'll learn all you need to know about shared living, and you're able to contact Michael, who can bring you through this process.
And that would be the best thing, is just to call and say, Michael,
That's it.
make me feel comfortable I fit.
That's it.
And as always, it's amazing what services are available here at the center of the universe that we don't know about. 20 years. Unbelievable. Thank you for joining, and I hope that some of our 6 loyal viewers will open up their hearts and their homes and give a call. Good night, all. And now we're going to talk about another service that I'm betting very few people knew is available or knew how to access. But again, it's amazing when you think about when we were kids and we had 4 doctors, because in Milford you can trace yourself back, you know, if you're old like me, to one of 4 physicians that brought you into the life, you know, that brought you into this world. And now you look at the medical center and all of the services that are available. It's amazing. But first, let's start with an introduction.
Good. I'm Jean Clapper. I am the Director of Family Supports at HMEA.
And I'm Julia Hartley. I am the recruiter for Adult Family Care Program at HMEA.
Okay, we're going to start with the basic question from an old man. What's adult family care?
Adult family care is known by a few different names: adult foster care, AFC, or adult family care. And what it is it's a Mass Health funded program that helps individuals who need help to live alone, or to live at home, and need help with a select 5 or 6 activities of daily living. So things like they need help with bathing or dressing or eating, toileting, ambulating, and transferring. So if individuals have mass health and need help with those, as we call them, ADLs, activities of daily living, they may be qualified to live in an AFC home and receive funding. So the reason for that is, we want to keep people, again, we talked about it earlier, living at home in their communities, and this is one mechanism.
So now, we talked about adults who live in shared living, and that's for 22 or and above.
Right.
But you don't start at 22.
No, HMEA, we've have had programs for over 55 years. Our family support programs, which I oversee, we've had for 20 years, similar to shared living, 20 years. We start really across the lifespan. We have programs for early intervention, which is a birth to 3 program for individuals who have intellectual or developmental disabilities, things like Down syndrome or CP or perhaps autism. Those individuals are typically identified early on, and they may be in need of early intervention services. So we provide that service. We then also have children's services. We have a school in Hudson, which is a private 766, special ed, 766 is the law, chapter 766, school that provides supports to children ages 9 to 22 who maybe have autism or some other diagnosis and are having challenges maybe in their own homeschool district, so they may be referred out to the Darnell School. And again, that's for children age 9 to 22 who are having behavioral challenges. And it's a great program, small program. They work very individually with those children and help them up through age 22 when special ed would end. We also have programs such as the TRACS program, which is for transitioning, children who are transitioning, as we talked about, into adult and might need help with how are they going to be able to work, get a job, vocational training. So TRACS is another program that we have. We then have, for over age 22, typically day and employment programs. Again, those are all across central Massachusetts, covering the Milford area. Individuals, adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities or autism might come to our day programs or might be involved with our employment programs. And then we have family support programs. We've been doing the family support programs for 20 years, and it started with one of the programs is the Home First Medically Complex program. So that's for families whose children are living at home with them. They're aged 3 to 25. And in addition to having, as we call it, IDDD, those are the intellectual or developmental disabilities. What used to be known as mental retardation is now, IDDD. For those children who have IDDD and complex medical issues, things like trachs, G-tubes, they're in a wheelchair, they need help with all their ADLs. We help families to be able to keep their children at home by providing intensive case management and support, connecting them with resources across the state. We have another program, the IFS program, which is the Intensive Flexible Family Support. You see a trend here. We have a lot of acronyms, but IFS.
A lot of alphabets here.
A lot of alphabets, but we try to break it down. And what the IFS program is, covers the Milford area. It's what we call a closed referral. So if the family is their child or their young adult has been identified, as eligible for DDS, Department of Developmental Services, and they're struggling, again, at home with maybe behavioral challenges. Some of the kids families are learning how to navigate this. And, I speak from the heart. I have a 26-year-old daughter with IDDD, so this is how I came into the field. Wasn't my background, but it was my life. So this IFS program is a great program, again, to keep kids at home, help the families. We bring in case managers that come into the home and work with the family through these challenges to connect them with resources and supports and services to make life at home successful for these kids. And then through that, we started, as David said, we started with shared living about 20 years ago. We've only been providing AFC for about the last 8 years. So it's a program, again, we wanted to help people stay in their communities. It's what we do as an agency. It's our mission, really connecting people with the resources around them. So that is how we started with the AFC program.
If I take all that, God bless you for remembering it. There's more alphabets in there than a box of cereal.
I know.
But it sounds like from day one on, if I need some extra help for my child, you've got an alphabet in the soup that can
Got
address
the whole
it.
alphabet, and we can help. We can help
But
do that.
the goal now, when I think about Milford, we take a lot of pride as a community that we have a lot of programs for our kids. At the end of the day, we all believe we have 4,200 kids, and every one of them is special.
Right.
And we've talked about how the kids who have development disabilities are no more special, no less special than the other 4,200 kids. They're our kids, they bleed Milford red, we take care of them. Simple.
It's great.
But now you turn around and say, okay, the goal of your program is to have a child stay home, outplaced?
It really depends on the family and the child's needs. So, and it depends on the program. If a family is thinking that they're not making it, it's just not working. Most people don't come to that decision, lightly at all. That it's not working, but it's just not working. So with some of our programs, again, it depends on the program, but with the medically complex program, we make sure that we have connected them with all the resources first. And sometimes they say, I didn't know, as we talked about, I didn't know that existed. I didn't know I could get nursing in the home. I didn't know I could have a PCA, personal care attendant, come and help me with this. So we connect them with those resources. In our IFS program, same thing, school. Oh, I didn't know that, somebody could come with me to the IEP meeting and work with me, and we could be a team to try and figure out what's working. And we have case managers and staff that will help those families navigate.
That's refreshing, because you're not saying, I know the answer, let me rationalize the logic to get there.
No.
You're saying some kids, can you think of a harder decision that a parent would make than to say, I'm just not able to care for my son or daughter?
Right.
Oh my God.
Well, and I think sometimes it's not even, sometimes it's that, and that's the reality. Some of these kids are very challenging that no one person can do it. And as a parent myself of a 26-year-old who no longer lives at home, but lives in 24/7 supports, she has, medical needs and she needs it. Ironically for her, she was looking for, was looking for more in her life. She was happy at home, but she didn't want to hang out with mom forever. And it was, so that was my own personal
Shame on her
decision.
for being a normal kid.
Yes, and I find that all the time. So for her and in our situation, in that personal situation, it has worked for her, and she comes home on weekends, and she's in a more traditional group home with 24/7 and nursing. But she comes home on weekends and goes on vacation with us and that type of thing. Kind of the best
Sounds
of
like
both.
my youngest daughter.
Right. but
Living
she's
in
not-
Boston, she comes home on weekends.
Right.
It's
Wants
okay.
us to take her out to dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, absolutely. So there's, and that model might be right for some, and it might not be right for another family. They may say, I am always going to have my child, young adult, live at home, and that might be right.
Well, I would imagine any parent that can would want that. But, you layer on health needs.
Sure.
And you just sit there and say, okay, part of me, when my daughters, we had the discussion where my darling bride was saying it's time for the little birds to leave the nest. Yeah, Dad had railroad spikes. We're spiking the nest to the tree. They never have to leave my home. And it's like, but they're 26. That's okay.
Right.
We'll just add another wing onto the house. They can just live there. So,
Right,
you know,
right.
given the choice, of course you'd want your family there. I was in heaven when, after college, the kids moved back home for 7, 8 months.
Right. But sometimes they don't want to stay.
Well, that's the problem. They want to be real people and move out.
Right, right. But for us with AFC, that is what, you know, and that's a lot of what we do. A lot of families have decided, you know, and have been providing the care, those daily needs we talked about earlier. They have been providing that care anyway and would do it regardless. But AFC is a way that either anybody over the age of 16, so it's those individuals we talked about with, you know, ID, DD, but they don't even need to have intellectual developmental disability. The program actually grew out of, in the mid-'70s, out of elderly, trying to keep elderly out of nursing homes. And so this program is anybody over the age of 16 who has Mass Health and meets the eligibility requirements. Again, for those, they need daily assistance with bathing, dressing, eating, toileting, transferring, those very specific needs, they may qualify. So we're trying to get the word out both to, you know, the population that HMEA as an agency already serves, but let more families know about it, and then also the elderly, that we have some families who are caring for both a person with an intellectual disability and perhaps their elderly parent. They could
Well, I mean,
essentially
you know, it's
become the
funny 'cause
caregiver.
this weekend, I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, how lucky am I? I've got my sainted mother, who's 94. Now, I married so far above my station. I married an angel, because when my dad passed away 34, 5 years ago, no, 30 years ago, 30 years ago, my darling bride came home and said, you know, you got to move your mother in with you.
Interesting, yeah.
I was amazed. And of course, she said, if you don't, she'll be dead within a year, because I'm an only child, very traditional Portuguese family, putting grandma in Milford by herself while we were in Washington. But as soon as she moved in, it was like target radar acquisition lock, granddaughter. You know,
Right.
my mother's lived with us now
Right.
for 30 years.
And were you familiar with AFC?
No clue.
Never heard of it, right?
But you know, it's hard, because now at 94, you got to watch her every minute of the day. The dementia set in.
Right.
You know, she had a stroke, the dementia set in, and she didn't do anything bad, but she'll go up and down the stairs, and if you don't watch her, she'll fall.
Ambulating, and that's, you know, and that's one of the areas that, you know, we assess. Julia does our recruitment and, you know, does a lot of the outreach. So I don't know if you want to speak to some of those areas.
When you say recruitment,
Yes.
I know.
what does that mean?
Just getting the word out there, you know, informing people, you know, what AFC is and how we can help. And like Jean said, a lot of the times, like yourself, you know, you're caring for your mother and you didn't even know this program existed, you know. So what I do is, you know, I try to get the word out there. We come to things like this. We go to different fairs, outreach to our different programs. You know, a lot of the families that are in our other programs don't know that we have AFC, you know. So, I mean, just to get into our program, it's very simple. Call me and I ask whoever lives with the individual some questions on the individual's background, again, like Jean said, on the ADLs, how are they with dressing, bathing, eating, ambulating, toileting, if they have any behaviors. It's a quick 15-minute assessment over the phone. I then bring it back to the team and we discuss if we think that this person can qualify. And so there's 2 levels. A level 1, meaning they need assistance with, and correct me if I'm wrong, with 1 ADL.
2 ADLs.
2 ADLs for level 1, and this just changed, so bear with us.
Fill that out.
Okay.
Regardless, there's 2 levels. Level 2 meaning they need a higher level of
slide.
care, and a level 1 meaning they need a lower level of care. If we do
You're
think
right.
that they will qualify at one of the levels, then our nurses that work in the AFC program would reach out to the family and schedule a time to go out and do a more in-depth analysis to see if they would qualify for the
Yeah, but
program.
that, I mean, I hate to be cold about it, but that little bit of help may be the difference between keeping my mother in the house
Right.
and not being able to take care of her.
Right. So, and again, based on the level, say your mother or say somebody with ID or DD qualified for a level 2. They would see both our nurse and our case manager. They would come out to the house once a month together, the nurse and the case manager at the same time, and help you with any medical needs. The nurses are, in communication with all your mother or all of an individual's doctors. The case manager can connect you to different supports, different programs that your mother might be able to go to during the day. And also
Safety plans.
Yeah,
and-
safety plans, and make sure that the house is safe for her. If there was a fire, would she know how to evacuate?
They practice, I think.
Yeah,
and
they
practice
See, and
fire
that's the
drills.
kind of thing that always scares us, because the answer in our case was no.
Right. And so our staff would help you come up with a plan of, okay, so the answer is no, how do we deal with this? How do we come up with a plan?
For us, we hire a grandma sitter.
Yeah, right.
And we're lucky that we found this wonderful family. And the mom loves the idea that we're paying their daughters to sit there and do homework.
Yeah,
But all I want is somebody to sit with grandma.
right. And again, I mean, if this was something that you were to consider, or anyone else to consider, if they have Mass Health, there's a tax-free stipend that comes along with it. I don't think we've mentioned that. And again, different for the leveling, depending on what level they qualify for. For level 1, it's about $10,000 a year, tax-free stipend that the family receives monthly. It's broken down into monthly payments. A level 2 is up to $20,000 a year that the families receive
Now,
for
help
a
me
tax-free
understand.
stipend.
There's a stipend for you to take care of your mother.
Yes, or for you to take care of your child.
Right, and there's criteria around that.
Yeah.
Who it can be. It can't be a legally responsible relative, cannot be paid as the caregiver, and that's part of the assessment and intake process that Julia would go through. Who do you have somebody? They have to live together, so obviously you have to live in the home, not just go and provide the service, but live in the home together. And then who is that? If it's somebody who's not legally responsible, so over the age of 16, it can, from 16 to 18, all of us as parents are legally responsible for our children.
Minor.
Yeah.
But after 18, if you haven't gone to court to get guardianship, either for a person with an intellectual or developmental disability or an elder, if you're not the guardian by going to court, then that person who lives with them is not legally responsible, and as such could be the paid AFC caregiver. We have some of our families might have an older sibling, of a young adult with IDDD. They might have the older sibling be the caregiver. It could be another person living in the home who's not legally related to them, such as, if it's a single mom with her live-in partner, the live-in partner could be the AFC caregiver. And there's, and we work through that. We actually have a topic coming up, a workshop on October 17th in Franklin on guardianship, because that whole piece stumbles. People stumble along that and go, wait a minute, do I need guardianship for somebody, a young adult who might have intellectual and developmental disabilities? And you don't always need it. And if you don't know ahead of time, and some families go through that process and become the legal guardians because they think that's the right thing to do and that they need to, and then they've just, boxed themselves out of a program that might help them to keep their individual at home. So, that's why we're putting that on, again, on October 17th in Franklin at our administrative offices. We have an attorney coming in and speaking, which is nice because those can be expensive to hire attorneys, so.
But now, if I just want to learn how, Julia the recruiter, it's probably a more effective way of Googling you.
I mean, yeah, if you Google me, I don't know that you'll get very far. But no, you can go to our website. It's hmea.org/AFC. Or you can shoot me an email. My email's jhartley@hmea.org. Or you can call me. My phone.
We'll have all that information
Yeah.
when the show's over on the credits.
Yeah.
Right.
So any questions?
The
you can give
most
me a call.
important thing seems to be hmea.org.
Yeah. There's
Start there,
Yep.
and because I could see somebody saying, I don't understand what options. I had no idea HMEA existed. Lived mine 20
Right.
years in my town.
Right,
Right.
I grew up in the town.
right,
You tell me you've been here 2 decades. It's like, really?
right,
Where was I?
right.
But every time I peel back this onion of healthcare, I'm amazed
more.
at what is available here in Milford.
Right. There's another place that might be helpful. We have an upcoming conference specifically on AFC, adult family care, and shared living. And that one is coming up on September 26th at the Best Western Royal Trade Plaza up in Marlboro. Again, go to our website. We'll have the information up there. So if families want to learn more, people want to learn more about AFC and shared living, it's a full day of workshops that help explain it.
Now, do you have any of these recorded on your website or on YouTube?
We have had some historically on, what the programs are. I don't think that at the moment, I don't think we have any videos live, but maybe we'll put this one up.
I mean, that would be a wonderful thing to do, when you say, okay, we're having a workshop,
Oh, right.
right? Just film it, put it up, and that way, a lot of people don't have an hour or two
Absolutely.
in a row,
Right.
but I can watch 15, 20 minutes,
Yeah.
Right.
then go take care of the family, then come back.
I
and
was going to say, in some of these families that we're talking about, that's the issue. They can't get out of the house.
Right.
And that's a challenge
Right.
because they're caring for an elderly parent or, a young adult with disabilities that needs them home.
Yeah, we had a wonderful woman with 9 grandkids and 3 great-grandkids.
Right,
I don't know how you can even move around if you got 13 little guys running around the house.
right.
So, having the ability to, when you have some downtime, between 2 and 6 in the morning, watch 20 minutes. I mean, I think that would be wonderful.
Right. So, well, that's something we'll think about. We'll
Yeah.
get our IT folks on that.
Yeah, right on it. Yeah.
How do I know if I qualify?
I mean, a lot of families don't know they qualify, I guess, is the main
Well, that's my
issue.
point. I'm going to call you and say,
And
do
so-
I qualify?
Right, and so like I said, I'm going to do an assessment over the phone. It's as thorough as I think you can do over the phone. But again, asking the questions about the ADLs.
Right.
Go ahead, Jean.
And it just starts there, so that's
Right.
the start. We don't want to waste people's time,
I can give
we
them
know
a
people-
usually I can give them a pretty good idea on the phone if I think they're going to qualify or not.
Right.
And if
Right,
I
but-
don't think they're going to qualify, I explain why. And if I do, then we bring it back to our team and discuss it as a team. And then our nurses will reach out and again do more at home, more in depth.
Right, and it becomes a process. It's usually about a 6 to 8 week process of once we've identified, somebody's reached out to us. There's things that the caregiver, needs to qualify. So similar to as in shared living, caregiver has to submit to a query. The caregiver's physician needs to agree that they're capable, that they don't have any physical or reasons that they would not be able to provide for this care, of another individual. And it's a whole process where we qualify them.
So you keep using this word caregiver. What's a caregiver?
Caregiver, again, could be a parent of somebody who needs help to live at home daily. It's daily assistance. And again, as we talked about, and I think it was, it's for level 1, they need assistance with 1 or more ADLs. And if it's daily, and they do need that care, and the caregiver is willing to provide it, then that person could potentially be paid the stipend from Mass Health to continue to provide that care. And then the benefits are certainly financial compensation, but also that they have, as Julia mentioned, we have a nurse and a case manager that would be assigned to them, would help them navigate
The
the
benefit is I get
challenges
to keep my family in the house,
at home.
regardless of age.
And it's a benefit. It's obviously a more cost-effective solution to the state than placing in, the
Then
old days.
13 grand a month in
Right,
a
in a
nursing
nursing
home.
home.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but the challenge is people sometimes don't know that these options
Well, the
are
reason I
available.
ask you is, I can see somebody saying, do I qualify as a caregiver? Do I need some kind of special degree or?
So usually it's not the caregivers that we have problems qualifying. Usually it's the individual because we're qualifying the individual to make sure they qualify for the program. Of course, I mean, to qualify a caregiver, they just have to be over the age of 18. They have to submit to a query, have an annual physical, to be fit to be a caregiver, and they can't be illegally responsible for the participant. But the participant themselves, needs to have assistance in the 7 ADLs that we talked about. They can't be allowed to be left alone for more than 3 hours, things like that. And that's everything I go through in the intake.
So if somebody says, oh, well, my individual does need help, they need help shopping, they can't
Or
shop or they
banking.
don't drive or banking, but I go to work and then when I come home afterwards, then we go out together and we do that. that person wouldn't qualify for AFC because they're able to stay alone for
For
more
8
than,
hours.
Right.
for that. And
Right.
it's really, AFC is a medical model. So that is where, and we talked about it, started keeping people, elders out of nursing homes. So it's based on solely those, at least initially, those ADLs. And if the person doesn't need daily assistance with those, then the person wouldn't qualify. And most of the caregivers that we have are already known to and living with the individuals that they want to
It's
support.
usually a parent or, a son or daughter that they're living with, or a relative, a sister or brother,
So a parent could qualify as a caregiver?
for their child or
Over
their young
18.
adult.
Over 18.
Yeah, over 18.
Oh, so that's why I say not legally
Right,
responsible.
because 16 to 18, a parent is legally responsible by law until the individual turns 18.
Now, when you have a typical kid who's in their 20s, am I still responsible? I'm trying to figure that one out
No,
because
and that's the challenge. Like with guardianship, some people, if you have a severely, a person with severe disabilities, somebody who's nonverbal perhaps, doesn't speak, doesn't read, doesn't write, those things, and they're 22, if you haven't gone to court, you are not legally responsible for them. And, that's, people would think, of course I am. They can't, they live with me, they're my son or daughter, they can't read or write, but you have to go through the
You have to
process,
go through the legal-
of the legal process of either guardianship itself or lesser alternatives,
but you would help people understand
Of
what
course,
they
and
have to
that's-
go
Yeah,
through.
we have,
Right.
yeah.
And that's why we have the guardianship or alternatives program coming up on, again, what was that, October 17th?
October 17th, yeah.
So, because it's, in all of this, there's a lot of confusing things, but, I think the message is that HMEA, we talked about it, we have supports across the lifespan. All of the people in all of our programs really want to try and help, get the word out, and then, so if people have questions, call us. We can help figure out if it's not our program, there might be another program we can refer
How
you
big
to.
is your program?
For AFC or in general?
Or in general?
In general, so we provide supports to more than 4,000 children and their families across central Massachusetts, central southeastern Massachusetts.
4,000? That's more
4,000.
than we have in Milford is for kids.
Right, right. Well, think
We've
of
got
the number of
4,200
individuals.
kids in Milford.
Right. We have a program that also covers this area, the Autism Resource Center of Central Mass. It's based in West Boylston, covers the Milford region. And, a lot of people, if they have a child on the spectrum, which there's been so many, if families haven't connected with the Autism Resource Center, they definitely want to do that.
Yeah.
There's Facebook page, they have events, they have support for the families, they have groups for dads, they have a camp, just so many programs to help families not feel so alone.
It's amazing. We started the show saying there are programs here in Milford that can help so many people that we don't know about. This obviously is one. HMEA.org, reach out, ask your questions, become informed. Because the more I peel back the onion, the more I'm proud of our little town and people like you that are helping us keep our families together. As always, tomorrow will be a better night than tonight. God bless.
Not too long since I've been home.